So welcome to today's presentation, Charting Michigan's Course Toward Carbon Neutrality, Clean Energy, and Sustainability. This is the February session of our EnviroSchool series. And this is a new series that we started this year to support teachers in advancing EGLE's mission of protecting Michigan's environment and public health. And you'll hear more about that later in the presentation. So what do we do here at EGLE? EGLE is the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, formerly known as DEQ, if that is a more familiar acronym to you. We really focus on environmental management through limiting pollutants, through the application of our environmental laws. We do inspections, we enforce regulations, we do environmental investigations. So when there's a spill or an accident of some kind that could have environmental contamination, our staff go out and investigate that. We do a lot of monitoring of air, land, water quality, and then there's a lot of outreach, technical assistance, financial assistance. So you'll be hearing a lot about some of that piece during the presentation today. You're going to see this broken out a little bit more clearly for you, but just so you see, we have 6 program divisions that are these blue boxes here. And these are our areas where people are actually really working with the environmental regulations and doing outreach with the community. Our offices are offices that are appointed mostly by the governor and work on these special areas of focus, and they interact with our program divisions in different ways. So far in the EnviroSchool series, we have had presentations from the water resources, drinking water, materials management, remediation, oil, gas, and minerals. Very exciting. And then today you'll be hearing again from some folks in a different part of our materials management division, which is a very large division, and you'll see kind of how they fall in there. I know you're all thinking you see a big gap in air quality division, but don't worry, because in May, we will be having a very exciting air quality presentation. So come back for that. So this series that you're here for today is really to help support educators around the state, and that is educators of all kind, whether they're K-12 educators in the classroom, whether they're non-formal educators in places like nature centers or zoos or aquariums, whether you're a college educator or you work with the general public in some other capacity. So we really want to help provide resources to you to help you teach your audiences about the environment. And we want to partly do that by helping you build connections between professionals in this field and resources and that you can use and bring back to the classroom, and also in bringing some ideas where you can raise awareness for your audiences and your students, especially about environmental careers. So we're all really happy you're here, and we will make this presentation recording available after the fact so that you can share it with others if you would like. So with all of that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our presenters today. We have Jessica Crawford and Jake Wilkinson in our sustainability unit here at EGLE, and they are really excited to share with you some of the cool work that EGLE is doing to address climate change and really catalyze changes across Michigan. So I am going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to Jesse and Jake.
Excellent. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. As Lean said, I'm Jake Wilkinson. We are in the Energy Services Unit within EGLE. And so EGLE being the Michigan Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. And we joined EGLE when it got renamed EGLE. We were formerly known as the Michigan Energy Office, and joined EGLE when that restructuring happened. So EGLE's mission overall is to protect Michigan's environment and public health by managing air, water, land, and energy resources. Like I said, the energy part is where we come in most strongly in my unit. We do have a plan that's been laid out through the My Healthy Climate Plan that was established and released in April of last year on Earth Day, I believe. It's called the My Healthy Climate Plan, done by the Office of Climate and Energy, which you saw on the slides earlier, one of the offices of the department. Main goal there, I would say, is the 100% economy-wide carbon neutrality by 2050. There's a lot of sub-goals within that, hitting these different action areas, as you can see on the screen. One, committing to environmental justice, wanting to make sure that we are providing benefits to low-income areas, other areas that have been designated as environmental justice communities, which is another thing that our department has done through the Office of Environmental Justice, where they have created a guide to determining the level of EJ, as they call it, in each community around the state. Working on cleaning up the electric grid, working on electric vehicles, which is something Jesse will touch on later when we get to her slides. Repairing and decarbonizing homes. That's something that we work in homes and businesses. We do more in the commercial side than we do residential, but with some of the federal programs, which again, I believe we touch on later in this presentation, that will be changing somewhat, and we'll be doing a lot more work with homes in the near future. Industry, something I'll touch on later. We do try and drive clean innovation, not only through direct energy efficiency and renewable energy implementation within industry, but then also with the innovation center we have. And then just overall, our work would protect Michigan's land and water. So as I said, well, as it was said earlier, we are in the materials management division. Those are it's kind of a duplicate slide from what was shown earlier, the different divisions within EGLE. Within materials management, there are several sections. We are within the sustainability section. Most of these are regulatory. Our section is the exception to that. We are non-regulatory. And then within sustainability, there's 3 units. So there's Sustainable Development Unit. Until the last couple of years, I think it was known as pollution prevention, if you've heard of that. So doing a lot with, they have an industrial assessment position. They do a lot with diesel emission reductions through a couple of different funding sources, but generally trying to replace old inefficient diesel engines with either newer ones or other fuel sources, including recently moving towards replacing with some electric powered vehicles. There's the recycling unit, which does a lot of our work around recycling around the state, and then energy. So that is where Jesse and I are, is in the energy unit, and we focus on energy efficiency, renewable energy, and then some kind of research-based programs around that. We'll get into those. A lot of our stuff is funded through the U.S. Department of Energy and the State Energy Program. So we, in that unit, do have a mission as well. So promoting healthy communities, economic growth, environmental sustainability through the provision of energy efficiency and renewable energy programs. So trying to advance efficiency and renewables in the state because it it's better for the environment, reduces emissions and climate change, and in a lot of cases, it improves the financial stability of the business or the residents or whatever the implementer might be. Improves their financial stability through reduced utility payments and long-term cost savings. So these are some of our current programs. They've changed over the years. We try and change them periodically to keep up with the current needs around the state. The top 2 there being more around policy and research based, and then we have some workforce ones, energy codes, then some more I guess sector specific programming as well, and we'll get into more details in all these in the upcoming slides. And then communities and some EV charging. So the first one being energy planning and policy. So this was a project that we've done with the University of Michigan, trying to establish a database of zoning around the state and whether or not they are zoned for wind and solar. And so anyone can access this database to see what the zoning is like in your community or in any other community around the state. And it was for residents as well as for the planning commissions themselves to not only see where they stand and and to plan for these incoming wind and solar resources, because there's been a lot of push lately for new wind installations, new solar farms, and if you're not zoned for it, then it may deter that, but also if you're not prepared for it, it can you can get some situations that you may not want to. If your community's against those things, which I would say I hope that you're not, given that you're attending this, but if you have concerns around it, then you should probably outline that in your planning and zoning policies. And so just doing setbacks and other regulations around it would be important to be prepared before the things come in or some developer comes in with a proposal, so that you can be ahead of the curve there. And then same with the solar and wind resources. Those are largely in the form of kind of recommendations or sample zoning that you could put into your policy, so that if you don't have it and you want to include these things, that way you don't have to start from scratch. The roadmaps, we've done a series of roadmaps, these ones being the most recent. Energy storage, we finished early last year. The other three, geothermal, solar, and wind, we just finished within the last couple of months. But all of those revolve around what we call finding the gaps, opportunities, and barriers for those technologies in the market. So, where are things or where are areas that we could utilize these more effectively in the current environment? Where are what are the barriers to further implementation of these different technologies, and recommendations for what changes could be made to better utilize wind, solar, geothermal, storage, whatever the roadmap focus is. So typically these are awarded to either nonprofits or universities to do the research on our behalf and then create that roadmap for our use and distribution. And then we generally try and implement programs based on that outcome to address some of the recommendations. The accelerator is with Lawrence Tech University. That one is a new product implement or innovation center. So they take early stage companies that maybe need help with prototyping or need help with some stage in their implementation to be ready for the market, and they provide technical assistance and other whatever assistance they may need, connections they might need to a national lab or whatever, and help them get those products to market. So we're not only growing Michigan businesses, because they have to be Michigan-based businesses, but then also getting to market more technologies that could be implemented in businesses or homes to make those places more efficient, or use less energy, produce less waste, whatever the case may be for that particular technology. Building operator training, that program is a workforce-based program, so we provide a tuition discount for public and nonprofit building operators across the state to attend. It's the building operator certification program, and so we provide the tuition discount in addition to most of the utilities also provide some funding for that, to make the training very low cost for these operators so that they can attend. And the building could be the most efficient building in the world, but if the operators are not utilizing the systems in place most effectively, then it's not going to achieve its potential. So we want to make sure that the building operators have the knowledge and expertise to operate their buildings to the most efficient standard they possibly can. So that's kind of the goal of this program. Michigan Energy Codes Compliance Collaborative, that is an initiative that I started 4 years ago, I would say. And so we get together stakeholders from across the state, be it builders, uh, code officials, energy raters, just general energy advocates, whoever might be interested. Utilities have been involved as well, to identify problems with the code and try and develop solutions to improve the compliance with the current energy code. Right now, we're currently updating our energy code, and so there's been a lot of talk around that and how we can most effectively implement it when it does go live, and we have a final version that is approved by the Bureau of Construction Codes and the legislature through all the hoops that they have to go through. But generally, we try and meet once a quarter, and we can identify and prioritize tasks that we want to take on, and then create a project and award a project that can actually implement those tasks. Small manufacturers retooling, that is a rebrand of an older program that had a very long acronym that was confusing a lot of people, but basically focused on small manufacturing facilities trying to implement process efficiency. So, anything that they could do that would reduce their energy input per unit produced. So, we try and stay away from, lighting for this program, especially because lighting is pretty proven and has really good paybacks already on its own. So we're trying to do more innovative things that may help these manufacturers become more stable. We've done like a printer for one that it had really improved their throughput. It was for printing large signs. It wasn't like a office printer, but just trying to improve the reliability and their efficiency in the products that they produce. Similar program, but focused on agriculture and farming. And we try and implement efficiency projects. If they've already done a significant amount of efficiency projects, we can also look at doing renewable energy implementation. So recently did a solar array at a small farm in northern Michigan, to try and help them become more stable and support the farming industry. Clean energy for low income and medium income solar programs. So the Clean Energy for Low Income Communities program came out of DOE Accelerator. We've done 3 stages of that with 3 different types of utilities, being as it says there, a co-op, a municipal, and then an investor-owned utility. So basically, we are buying shares for low-income residents into a community solar program. Those homes have to have gone through a weatherization program to make their homes more efficient, and then they can get the solar credits on their bill. The idea being that would save them on their utility bills, and then
It looks like we might have lost Jake.
no, I'm sorry,
Oh,
my
there he
daughter
is.
just
Sorry.
got home from daycare and
Oh,
she
you're okay.
had to barge into the room. So no, but the Clean Energy for Low Income Communities program is for, as I said, if we give them solar credits, then it could make them more efficient or save them on energy bills, and hopefully they could graduate out of the program, and then more people could be put into the program as those other ones graduate out of it. Then the My Solar Communities program is focused on The My Solar Communities program is trying to create a guidebook to the My Solar Communities. I'm terribly sorry. The My Solar Communities program is trying to analyze the three models. Sorry. Analyze the three models and create guidebooks, so that other people could implement these community solar programs. And so that one is ongoing, but hopefully we'll be finishing up here in this year sometime. And so we could publish those guidebooks. Other states, other communities, other interested parties could then implement similar programs to provide community solar to their communities or whoever they're targeting. Go to the next slide. Oh, I think that's Jesse. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand over control to Jesse. And again, I'm terribly sorry about the interruption.
No worries, Jake. And it was perfect timing anyways, because now we're going to transition. So no worries whatsoever. But as Jake mentioned, my name is Jesse, and I am the Community Programs Coordinator with the EGLE Energy Services Unit. And essentially today, I will be talking a little bit more about our community and electric vehicle charging programs, as well as going over some of the metrics of the programs that we highlighted today so that you guys can kind of have more of a tangible understanding of what are the outcomes of this program and how does that correspond to what we set out in the My Healthy Climate Plan, and then also just go over some additional federal programs that are going to be more relevant for the K through 12 educators. And then from there, we'll just go ahead and take questions. So to get started, the first program I will talk about is Community Energy Management. And for those of you that aren't familiar, Community Energy Management is kind of this sequential process for managing your facility's energy use. And the reason why it is sequential is because there are steps that you have to take in order to improve the outcomes in the most efficient manner, with the first step being benchmarking. And benchmarking is essentially just measuring your building's energy use so that you can kind of understand where you fall in terms of what is your actual energy footprint. And you know, the saying goes that you can't manage what you don't measure. And so this is kind of just the starting point to assess where you're at in terms of what your energy consumption is, as well as your cost. From that point, then you go into an energy audit, which is like a thorough assessment of where your energy is being used within your facility and where there are inefficiencies and opportunities to decrease your energy waste. And from that point, once you have an energy audit, you kind of have this detailed guidance of how you can begin to improve your energy usage in order to reduce excess consumption, as well as reduce any excess cost. And that's where implementing energy efficiency upgrades come in, and so that you are essentially only having to use the energy that you need in order to sustain operations, and that you're not creating any kind of unnecessary energy, and which helps with, again, your cost as well as your carbon footprint. And then from that point is where you can begin to go to renewable energy sources. So you have the minimum that you need to operate, and then with that, you want to begin to power that with cleaner energy to, again, help you reduce your carbon footprint. And the reason why renewable energy comes kind of last in this process is because we don't want to have to generate more energy than what we need. And so this is kind of just an ongoing cycle of, all right, once you kind of get through this first cycle, then it's kind of like, all right, let's reassess and find out, again, where our inefficiencies are, where we can improve, and then how we can clean up our power sources. And so the Community Energy Management Program is meant to help essentially local governments wherever they're at within this process, whether they're just getting started or whether they have taken all of the steps and they're ready to, go get a solar array on their roof or what have you. And so the community energy management program not only provides that technical assistance to help them understand this process and what resources are available to them to kind of complete some of these steps, but it's also a grant program where it funds projects to actually implement this type of work or to plan for this type of work. And unfortunately, with the community energy management program, our definition of local governments is more strictly for municipal building operations rather than more so than like K through 12 schools. And so most school facilities are not going to be eligible for this program. However, there are still ways that you can partner with your local governments to help, I guess, expand the improved energy measures in, I guess, facilities that are still supported by the community as well as students. So for example, one project that we funded in the past was with the City of Royal Oaks Public Library. And so obviously this is a facility where a lot of students go to for learning and resources. And although it's not technically a K through 12 facility, it is one where students can still benefit from improved and cleaner energy. And with this specific project, they ended up doing an LED lighting retrofit, which ultimately cost them around almost $19,000. But in the end, they're able to have significant cost savings that are essentially going to pay for the project in a matter of roughly 2 to 3 years. And so there are opportunities like this to work with your government partners to ensure that the facilities that your communities are relying on are ultimately going to be, for one, more efficiently using taxpayer dollars, as well as are providing a good example for those users of the facilities on what sustainable building operations can look like. Another program that we operate for communities is the Catalyst Communities Initiative. And essentially, this is meant to be a resource hub to aid communities with all of their decarbonization efforts. And with this, there's kind of several different aspects within the program. One is just being a resource hub. And so as a local government, we understand that there are a lot of different sustainability challenges that one might have to address. And it's not just specific to energy, especially when you're thinking about decarbonization as a whole. There's a lot of different opportunities to decarbonize, whether it's through energy, mobility, water, recycling, all that good stuff. And so this is meant to be kind of like a one-stop shop of like everything that you could possibly need to know about, potential avenues to decarbonize and what you should be doing. And this resource hub is kind of geared towards providing those like how-to guidance documents so that for somebody who isn't really sure where to get started, they can go and find that information that they need to read up on and learn to see what they should be doing in their community to help improve their carbon footprint. Another aspect of this program is technical assistance. And the direction that we have headed with this so far is that we have hired a third-party consultant to kind of help with that hand-holding process for applying to these federal funding opportunities. So as many of you have probably already aware of, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act are both kind of these once in a generation federal legislative documents that have resulted in the allocation of federal resources that are for like climate change and for decarbonization. And so our technical consultant is kind of trying to work with tribal communities as well as Justice 40 or environmental justice communities to provide that one-on-one assistance to make sure that they can go after some of these federal resources that are related to energy, to bring them into, to Michigan and to serve their local communities so that we can continue to make sure that no one's being left behind when all of these resources are, starting to become available. Another aspect of this program is cohorts. We have found that, a lot of this learning that happens in this space and probably in a lot of other spaces is because of that peer-to-peer network sharing. And so, the city of Ann Arbor, for instance, is a leader in the sustainability front. And so other communities that can get with the city of Ann Arbor and learn and to see kind of what they've done or how they've approached things are something that's very beneficial from I guess the perspective of a municipal employee that might not know where else to get started. And so just having that network of people that are in similar positions to share information, exchange ideas, and just like run information past, it has been pretty beneficial. And so again, that's another thing that we're trying to support within this initiative. And then the last thing is just webinars. We understand that sometimes just having those guidance documents, when they begin to get like 50 pages long, they can be a little dense and overwhelming to kind of read through. And so we try to take, snippets of information and topics with areas of interest that people really want to learn more about and break it down into like a 1-hour webinar so that, we have those alternative methods of education and information sharing. Now switching gears a little bit to Charge Up Michigan, which is our plan and implementation strategy to deploy Michigan's light-duty electric vehicle infrastructure network. Here in Michigan, we kind of are in a unique position where we are, known to house the Motor City, and so we are being confronted with this transition towards this next generation of vehicles that are going to be different than from what we've known and are familiar with to date. And so to prepare ourselves for this transition towards electric vehicles, we have to make sure that the infrastructure is there so that people feel confident in the purchase of electric vehicles. Because right now, one of the main, I guess, hindrances to the adoption of a new electric vehicle is the fear that, people can't travel the same way as they have with internal combustion engine type cars, because of a lack of ability to charge. And so what we do here in Charge Up Michigan is we analyze travel patterns, tourism destinations, increasing market growth, cost, all that good stuff to plan out where we need to put these chargers so that people can feel confident that they can go wherever they want to in our state without, the fear of being stranded and having to get their car towed to their next destination. And so with this effort, it's about planning, for that next generation of vehicles, and then also offering grants to those site hosts that are going to be the ones that are owning and operating these charging stations to help people get to their various destinations. Okay. Now, again, switching gears to kind of get on to the next topic. So Jake and I have kind of gone through all of these programs that we oversee within the Energy Services Unit. And so I kind of wanted to provide a breakdown of what is actually happening with, I guess, the outcomes of these programs. And so for this grid, what I'm trying to demonstrate is some of our education metrics that have resulted from these different programs. And education metrics in the terms of actually developing guidance documents or hosting workshops, trainings, and a variety of education sessions, to just hosting webinars that can be viewed by the public. And so all in all, with the fiscal year 2022, which for us is, I believe it's October of 2021 through September of 2022, we have developed and posted a total of 14 guidance documents, almost 80 of these workshops and training sessions, and then around 12 of these webinars. And all of this material can be found at our website. The easiest way to get to our website is just going to michigan.gov/energy, and you can kind of see the various sectors of our programs as we've kind of highlighted in this in today's presentation, and just kind of navigating through our website to see where these trainings and webinars and guidance documents are posted. And then the other metrics I wanted to share were some of those more technical, I guess, energy savings and greenhouse gas emissions metrics within our programs. And for us, our total annual electricity savings are around 2,500 megawatt hours. And to put this into perspective, I think a house on average uses about 10,000 kilowatt hours. So that would probably be around, 252 houses for in comparison to what our programs have saved. And then, same with these, the gas savings, we got a 1,600 I can't even remember what MMBTU stands for. Jake, feel free to put it in the chat if you know or if you remember. And
million
then
BTUs. Yeah.
What was it?
A million BTUs.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, I don't want to guess just in case I'm wrong. So a million BTUs, and then for the greenhouse gas savings, we got over 2,300 metric tons. And again, to help you put it into perspective of what these greenhouse gas emission equivalents might look like, that could be the equivalent of planting over 38,000 tree seedlings, taking off nearly 500 passenger cars driven on the road each year, saving around 290-ish homes of energy in 1 year. And then also the equivalent of a wind turbine, half of a wind turbine running for 1 year. And I know that these numbers, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, they don't seem that big, given, some of our ambitious goals that we have stated in the My Healthy Climate Plan. For instance, like we want to be carbon neutral by 2050. And so how does half of wind turbine of greenhouse gas emissions equivalents, I guess, really contribute to that? But one thing that I also wanted to put in perspective is that with the energy services programs, like all of this stuff that we mentioned, our office probably within 1 year has about $1 million worth of funds that we allocate. So our program is incredibly small, and a wind turbine alone costs, or like one wind turbine that's around like a megawatt or so, that costs more than $1 million. And so given the I guess breadth of work that we're able to do and the variety of not only education and energy waste reduction initiatives that we do in the variety of sectors, I think it kind of speaks more volume when you have that greater perspective of like the variety of programs that we have. So I guess I just wanted to put that out there as well, to kind of I guess make myself feel better about the half wind turbine running for a year comparison. Some other metrics we're sharing is that in 2022, we had around 4,200 megawatts of renewable energy generation, which was up 27% from the last year. And also right now, Michigan has a renewable energy standard that had to be met by this year, or I think it had to be met by 2021 of 12.5% renewable energy plus, and there's also plus a little caveat of like, you can also use energy waste reduction as a contributor to that as well. And all of our electric providers have met that goal. The next goal that is stated is for 2025, and it's to get to 35%. So we still have more progress to be made, but we're on an upwards projection. So that is really encouraging. Another metric is that around almost 3% of Michigan jobs are in the clean energy sector. And again, that's up 5% from from last year. And so we have seen that this sector is like one of the most prosperous in our state. And so again, something as educators that is definitely worth sharing to this next generation of the workforce is that the clean energy sector is definitely a stable and growing sector to go in and to consider. And so we want to continue this upward growth in our workforce and jobs as well. Another metric is that we have almost 22,000 electric vehicles registered in our state. Again, it's up about a quarter, 24%. We are still, I would say, probably out of all of the vehicles on our road, we're still probably around like 1% or less. So we still have a lot of progress to make in this space. But again, a lot of this industry is going to be led by our automakers, and there has been great support from our governor to help expand the growth of electric vehicle manufacturing in our state. So again, we expect this to only be the beginning and for this number to continue to spike. And then lastly, I threw in the recycling percent of 19.3. This is super exciting. It is, more in the wheelhouse of our sister units within our sustainability section. So if you have any questions about that, I would encourage you to save them for somebody else that knows more about recycling. But I thought that number is more impressive now than it has been in years past. So I wanted to make sure I gave it a shout out. And then lastly, just wanted to share some of those other programs that are relevant to energy savings for K through 12 through K through 12 public facilities. A lot, unfortunately, within the energy services unit itself, we don't have a ton of programs that are directly related to schools. But as I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of federal investment in this space, and there are more opportunities to take advantage of for schools that we would be happy to kind of support. And again, as I mentioned, we have a consultant on staff that can also help with these types of programs if you have any interest. One of them being the Clean School Bus Program. I'm sure a lot of you are probably already familiar with this one. This one is pretty well known. The first round of this already closed in August, and 25 Michigan school districts were awarded, but there's going to be more funding with all the way through fiscal year 2026. And so I wanted to just put this deadline out here so that you are aware of like when to expect these programs to come out for the next cycle. So if you're interested, you can begin kind of that information gathering stage right now. Another grant is for energy improvements at public school facilities. So I anticipate that this is kind of like our community energy management grant, where it's more geared towards energy efficiency improvements at schools. And again, I believe this round of funding has closed. It will close in April, but concept papers were already due in January. So it's kind of like just barely missed the entry into this one. But again, this one's going to be available through fiscal year 2026. So just a opportunity to kind of keep your eyes peeled for if you have any interest. And then lastly, there is the school air quality grants and technical assistance. This one was related to the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the newer of the two pieces of legislation. So there isn't a ton of details available yet, but there should be more information to come, hopefully sooner than later. And I guess beyond these three programs that I called out, there are also other resources available for you to check out. One specifically addressing, federal resources for schools. And then also there are like hubs that you can kind of navigate through to find the various federal resources and state resources that are available to assist whatever your program priorities are. And with that is the end of my presentation. And so Jake and I are happy to take any questions at this point.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessie. I'm going to quickly just follow up with a little bit of resources for you all before we jump into question and answers. Like I said in the chat, I will send all the links out from their presentation so you can follow those. When it comes to bringing this back to your classroom, there's a few things you can use from EGLE, but even more so with the climate and energy sector, everything is changing so quickly that what we're doing at the state level a lot of times is referring you out to some of the resources from these federal agencies that have more up-to-date data and more capacity to keep that data up to date for you. So from EGLE Classroom, we always have materials that you're welcome to check out from our lending station. I'll pop our career series in the chat. And then just again to note our MEECS units, we have a climate change unit, a new one coming out in 2023, but there is one out there right now. We have an energy resources unit. I will say it was published in 2017. And while that doesn't sound like that long ago, I'm already seeing a lot of changes that we need to make there. So there's some good frameworks there, and we'll be putting out some updates to that unit, hopefully in the next couple of months to a year as well. And if you want to get trained on the MEECS units, we are hosting MEECS Week at the DNR's Academy of Natural Resources this summer, where you can get trained in all of the MEECS units in 1 week up at the RAM Center in Roscommon, which is really fun. And we have workshops taking place around the state this year as well in our water quality and ecosystems units. Some of the other resources that we recommend, especially for teaching about climate, and you're probably familiar with these, are things like the CLEAN network, the climate literacy and energy awareness. That is, I would say, the one-stop shop for K-12 classroom resources, or college even, too, resources. It's curated to have the best of the best resources and lesson plans in there, and everything is aligned to your NGSS standards if you need it. Your federal agencies are your best bet as far as data when it comes to this, to things like energy and climate. So NASA and the Energy Information Administration have really great kids websites. The U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit is really cool for older students who are really able to engage with some of the geospatial, the mapping pieces of it. And NOAA has some really great education resource collections around climate as well. Climate Generation is another cool resource. And I'm going to pop in the chat an example of some really cool things that schools can do, even if you don't have grant money to do it. There are some really neat things that students can do in terms of energy audits around their buildings and things that they can promote to their administrations at their schools to try to improve their energy efficiency. So there's a really cool video, a little 6-minute video of some middle school girls in Florida who did an energy audit and presented the findings to their school district and ended up saving the school district $53,000 in energy costs. So there's a lot of cool things that students can do. Okay, before you jump over to questions, one last plug, upcoming EnviroSchool events, March, April, and May. I put the link in the chat. I'll put it in again for you to sign up for those if you want to learn more about other areas of what EGLE does. And we're going to leave it out for discussion now. And I'm also going to put in the chat right now a link to our exit ticket. So if you're here looking for sketch credit, a K-12 teacher, I'll need you to fill that out and put your PIC number in there so that I can give you those credits. So thank you for joining us. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording. And then I'm going to open it up for questions and answers.